Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks for joining me once again. I have a problem with a skunk in my live trap. I am going to dispatch this animal with a gun. If you don't want to see that, or if you have a problem with it, I suggest that maybe you move on. But I'm going to just talk a little bit about how I do it, why did I even get the thing in the trap, and it has to be dealt with in some fashion, and what I've chose to do. Okay, near my home here, we have a large feral cat population, and like any other animal, once you get too many of them, they start to become a problem. They're in the garbage, they're scaring the heck out of people, things of this nature, and I think it's because people feed them. I don't really know why they hang out, but they will start to grow and multiply and reproduce, and next thing you know, you've got these things everywhere, and they become more and more bold. They'll start coming up on the house and pooping on the deck, and a whole bunch of things. They'll get in your cars. They do a lot of stuff. So I've been setting these traps, and I catch basically three animals. One is the skunk that we're going to talk about. The other one is possums. The other is cats. I take cats and possums and I relocate them, and I let them go off in wherever I take them. Skunks are a different matter. I'm sure if you're here to watch a skunk being dispatched, you've already watched other videos where they use a blanket in order to get close to the skunk and deal with it without getting sprayed on and so forth. I don't really care to do that. I'm just going to shoot this animal and be done with it. I don't want to take that risk. If you live outside of, say, North America, and I think parts of South America, these things are just vile. I mean, the stink that comes off these animals just will not leave you. So it's a very, very good idea to not get tangled up with these things and get into a spray situation. A few of the other reasons are, you've got kids, you've got dogs, animals, pets, so forth, and my dog was sprayed in the face, and it took after normal bathing and so forth, it took a full 6 months for that dog to quit stinking like a skunk. She got it right square in the face, and every time she got wet, she smelled like a skunk, right? And she was always wet because she was a retriever, and retrievers just follow water wherever it is. So that was a big, big problem. I would highly recommend that you don't put yourself in a situation where you could get sprayed. So this is another reason why we want to get rid of these things. All right, in my neighborhood, we channel away rainwater through a ditch and culvert system. If you're not familiar with, say, culverts, for example, here's an example of where they are. That is a ditch, that is a culvert, and that is a culvert. These animals live in there, all of them. They make nice homes for the animals. I don't know what they do when it rains. I've never seen an animal come flushing out of there after a heavy rain or anything, but I do know that during the day that they do spend time there and often sleep, as far as I know. This is a juvenile skunk in this trap, and I'm about 10 feet away, and he's not paying me any attention. We're a little bit later in the morning than I would like. I like to do it like right as the sun comes up, enough light where I can see what's going on. The animal will be pacing in the cage, and that allows me to just sort of wait for my shot, and I'm going to lung shot this thing right behind one of his front legs, depending on what side I'm actually looking at. I don't want to do a head shot. I don't want to do a spine shot. I've heard from others who are maybe more knowledgeable than I am that can cause a spray, and I certainly don't want that. And let the animal bleed out, right? I've had a problem before where I didn't want the animal to suffer. It was maybe still moving a little bit, so I kept shooting it, right? And on the fourth shot, he sprayed. And what I'm going to do, and have been doing ever since, is they only get 1 or 2 shots, and then they need to bleed out, and just give them time, and they'll actually expire after a period, depending on, right? I also like to do it earlier in the morning because this animal has now gone to sleep in this trap, right? He's balled up in the corner. Let me do a little zoom in here for you. He's balled up in the corner. He knows I'm here, but there is something about them that causes them to just naturally want to go to sleep. I mean, they're nocturnal, I get that, but even trapped, they're still going to go to sleep. And he's hiding back in that corner, and he's not pacing anymore. And you can see too is where it's just like absolutely ripped up the ground all the way around the trap, and it just makes a mess of the yard is basically what it does. But they have an amazing ability to dig, and what I'm going to do is after this thing expires, I'm going to bury it in the yard, and oddly enough, animals will come and dig wherever I buried them. I could say, for example, take and throw this thing in the back of my truck or in my golf cart or something and go take it in the field and dump it, which would be nice, but I don't want this funk on any of my machines, right? It takes forever to go away. So I bury them with a shovel, and yeah, the what are now grave sites get dug up, but I don't really, I just fix that later, and eventually they'll quit doing that. This is a high-powered spring piston air rifle. It shoots a 177 sized pellet, and it's a single shot. It has a brake barrel. It breaks right here. It is scoped clearly and does a pretty darn good job at taking care of them, especially with that lung shot thing. Now, it doesn't have a lot of inertia. A lot of guys who know about guns and so forth would say, well, it's kind of a small pellet. I agree. It's what I have, right? So it gets the job done. I would rather have like a 22 caliber pellet gun. I mean, a firearm's really the way to go, but I'm in a neighborhood here, and I don't want to be shooting firearms at a skunk, right? It's just not cool. I'm not even really sure if it's completely illegal. I still don't want to do it. I have a 22, and I could take it, do it that way, but I'm just not going to do it. I think probably a better air rifle pellet size would be the 22 size. So that's what we're going to do. So let's take a look, and what I'm going to do is I have a beer can that is just beyond the trap. You see it laying out there in the yard? And before I get ready to do this, I'm going to take a shot at that beer can, kind of warm the gun up, make sure there's no malfunction, that I'm actually going to hit spot on. I mean, this thing is a tack driver. I mean, it's going to do exactly what I do and where I put the target. It's going to do the job. It's just like a double check before I actually go after the skunk. So that's what the can is for. I'm going to see if I can rouse this critter up. I want him up on his feet. Let's see what happens. We're really, really close. This isn't any more than 5 feet away. And he's in there sleeping, right? And I don't want that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rouse him from this direction because the trap door on the trap is protecting me. Let's just say that. So I'm going to hit this thing with this shovel, see if I can get him on all fours, and then we'll take it from there. Well, I was mildly successful. He's got his butt pointed at me. The tail's way, way up, but he's not coming up out of the corner. And the trap is so heavy with all the dirt that he excavated up into it. It's hard to do and keep your distance at the same time. But his butt is like pointing at me. I'm just going to be patient and give it a minute here and see what he does. He needs to move so I can get this lung shot in. A juvenile skunk. See you next week. Yeah, man. See you. Good luck. Did he spray?
Yes.
I don't smell him. I didn't see it come out. Well, they always poof out a little bit. So here's a conundrum. So I'm lining up my shot. My neighbors all know I do this, and he drives by, hey, what'd you get? That kind of stuff. And then my wife is up there going, oh, I smell him, he stinks. I don't know if I actually shot this animal. When you shoot them, they don't really do a whole lot. Like if you hit some animals, right, they'll do like somersaults and just do all kinds of stuff. These things just kind of stand there. I don't know whether or not this animal's been shot or not. He's not moving a whole lot, right? So got to give it a little bit of time, and it's a very difficult thing to tell the difference between sleeping and dead. It's really hard to do. We'll give it a minute. Okay. Okay, the jury is in. That damn thing is still alive, and it just squirted out some juice out of its butt at me, and I was nowhere near it, but it has sprayed in my yard yet again. All right, so he's getting the business here. Here goes. So now he won't take his eyes off me, right? He got a lifted head, and his body is sort of in the corner, and his butt has been facing us ever since. Well, all right, second shot. Pretty sure that did the deal, but you probably couldn't see it on camera, but I could see it through my rifle scope. This thing just dumped stank out of its butt while it was laying there dying, and it was coming out as a green stream. We're upwind, right? So the wind is at my back. It's going this way toward the skunk, so I don't smell anything. I guarantee you over there in that hole, that thing is going to be a stinking mess is what it's going to be. It's going to take about 2 days for this stuff to die down. And hopefully the wind will be in our favor, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the case. Well, I cleaned up everything from the skunk yesterday and hosed everything down. I leveled out the ground. I reset the trap with bait, with actually the same bait I've been using. I'll show you how I did that. But I realized while I was assembling the video, I didn't talk about bait, like how do you get the animal in there. But got everything cleaned up, and about 8 o'clock last night I was on the deck and I heard the trap go off, and surprise, surprise, look what we have here. And he's just kind of in there taking a nap. It's about 8:30 in the morning today, so he's been in here for 12 hours. We're going to take him across the way for about a 5-mile trip, and we'll dump him off in a field that I like to release these animals on. And this one's a juvenile, and actually pretty nice looking, you know, for this type of animal. They get much bigger, and I'm gonna have to shake him out of there. He's not gonna just want to just like crawl out. I'll be there for probably an hour before the thing even figured out how to, you know, get out of the thing. But they just fall out on the ground and they go. They're not all that smart. Cats will leave this trap like a bullet out of a rifle, so that's how it is. And the bait container is right there, so let's take a look at how what I use for bait and how I contain it. So this is a beach community, and we are about 6 houses or so away from the Gulf of Mexico. Another way to put it is that this is a nice little drinking village with a fishing problem. We have access to all kinds of bait, right? Shrimp, fish, you name it, we can get hold of it and we can do it fast. So anything that is from the sea, I think it makes a good bait for us. What I was doing, and what I did use for a number of times, was I just took a little sandwich plastic bag and I would throw anything I had in it and just drop it in the back of the cage, and they'd go after that, right? But they always got hold of it, and sometimes they could even snatch it out without actually tripping the plate in the trap. So that wasn't really working so good for me. So what I did was I went over to the dollar store and I picked up these little Tupperwares, and I drilled holes all through the top, and then I can just dump it in there, and it works really, really well. The bait that is in the cage right now, it's been in there for a week and I have not had to refresh that. Plus it's getting stinkier, right? So it's exactly what we're looking for. That works really, really well. I got a whole bunch of these sardines from my neighbor. These were accidentally delivered to him by Amazon, and he's going like, well, what the heck do I do with all that? And so I took them off his hands, and I've been using that for bait, and it works great. And I'll tell you what, I tested it out in the yard. I just threw some out in the grass. And like that evening, there was like 8 cats had all come in to gather up around it and eat it. So we know that works. That's what's in the trap now. So that's catching animals. So that's good. Now, if you don't have access to all this stuff and you don't want to have to store like an abundance of bait, like in your freezer, your refrigerator, you know, so forth, man, I'd recommend this right here. This is a pack of albacore white tuna. Costs about $1.60, and you can just dump the whole thing in the container and keep the separate packages in your refrigerator until you're ready to use it, right? That's not offensive. It's just something that normal people would have in their refrigerator. So I would just empty the whole contents in there and use it until it just needed to be refreshed. Works really, really well. I know from previous experience that peanut butter and tuna fish will bring skunks in for sure. I don't know about other animals. Well, I take that back. It brings possums in. So that's a good, like a mix. And you don't have to like get all crazy mixing it up and all this stuff. Just put a schmear in there, dump some tuna in it, put the lid on and throw it in the back. I did wire these containers to the cage, and they bit through 20-pound picture hanging wire with their teeth, right? So they can get through that. It's actually done that twice. So that really doesn't work. So I kind of have to take my chances on, you know, whether I trap them or not, and they might get to the bait or, you know, whatever. But anchoring it down, I have not found a good way to do that yet. And honestly, I'm not really even sure I want to even figure that out. So they'll bite through wire like no other, and they've got some big chompers on them. So that's what I use for bait. I'm sure anything else, you can go up to like here, like again, it's a fishing village. You can go up to our local grocery and you can pick up chicken necks, right? That's typically used for crab fishing, either in a crab pot or you can tie a string around it and just chunk it out into some shallower water, and the crabs will come after it, blue crab, and that would work for a bait, right? It'd fit right in those little containers, and it was going to get plenty stinky, I guarantee you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you joining me for this, and hope you got something out of this video. For me, I'm out. My new best friend here and I are going to go take a ride in my truck, and we'll let him go, and he'll go out and live his happy life just how he desires to. Thanks for watching.